All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is a meeting of the BET Budget Committee. The first item on our agenda, as posted, was ED6, was the Board of Ed's approval to use the Asia Society grant. This item's being withdrawn. If we refer to the budget resolution that was passed, number 45, it gives the Board of Education the authority to use this grant without the approval of the BET.
So I move to withdraw? Is that what we're going to do?
They withdraw it.
Did they withdraw it, or because I haven't seen anything about them withdrawing? Do we have to?
I advise them that it will be withdrawn, so I guess I was...
So do we need to move it? Are we still going to move, that it be withdrawn?
Can we withdraw?
I mean,
No, I
typically,
just-
we just identify that it's withdrawn. I'm sure, we will get clarification, but I'm sure the Board of Ed asked us to withdraw the item.
Make a motion, we postpone this item indefinitely.
I'm not sure we got
No,
that one,
no.
but I think the
I hope there's
idea
no
is
second to that motion.
It didn't need to come, and they put it on the agenda.
I believe that's what I said, yes. ED8, Board of Education, it's a transfer of $50,159. It is to cover a settlement in special education that required additional transportation funds and had been budgeted. It also covers the expense of the rental of the software Rethink that inadvertently was not budgeted. It is coming from three particular line items that have the ability to move the funds to cover those expenses. And then Mary Ford is here from the Board of Education and can explain the item further.
Okay, the first one I'll deal with is the transportation transfer. We have a student who has some very challenging behaviors, who is an out-of-district placement, who at this point, given the nature of his behaviors, cannot be safely transported on a Board of Ed vehicle. We've tried it. We've had 2 monitors on the bus. He's just not safe. His parent has the ability to transport him in their vehicle to the out-of-district school and has agreed to do it. We do this on an annual basis, depending on the family situation. It is actually a significant cost savings to the town and the board. So they agreed to transport the student back and forth to the out-of-district placement. So we took out of settlements and moved it into the transportation line, since what we're actually paying is a reimbursement for transportation.
Is that the 21,600?
Yes.
Is your mic on?
No, it's the 36,600.
I'm sorry. Yes, of course.
So,
Ms. Tarkington?
so when you say, is this like a private car? What is this?
Yes.
It costs
And we
$36,000?
have a settlement agreement with the family that addresses the issues of liability and insurance.
Thank
The second one is a mistake on my part, somewhat of an oversight. We use a program called Rethink, which is a database program that allows us to do both staff development for paraprofessionals. It has online modules. It also allows us to maintain chart and graph data for students who have direct teaching as part of their program. And it provides sample lesson plans and activities for those students who are using direct teaching. It was my error. I thought it was a multi-year contract. It was not. It was on a year-by-year basis. So we did not have enough money in this year's budget. We took money from 2 lines where last year we did have an accrual at the end of the year. So our anticipation is that we will, if things stay equal as they are right now, we should have the money in those 2 lines. And we moved it into covering the cost of the Rethink platform for this year.
Other questions?
And that's the annual cost.
Excuse me?
The 13,000 is the annual cost.
Yes.
And there's one more year on the contract?
This year we signed a 1-year contract.
Oh,
For next
okay.
year, we may do the multiple year.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was a 3-year contract, but this is the 1-year sum, but it's a 1-year contract.
This is a 1-year contract.
Ms. Tarkington?
May I ask Roland a question?
Yes.
So Roland prepared a chart for us that I asked.
Can you speak into the mic? I don't think it's picking up.
I'm sorry. I had requested that Roland prepare a chart for us, which I think was circulated to the Budget Committee. And Roland, I just wanted to make sure I understand the chart. The amounts, those have been included in this chart that you have prepared for us?
No,
They have not
they
been.
have not. That's what's there right now,
This is what's there right
Right.
now.
before these adjustments are made.
So is there sufficient money then in transportation? Because I see that available is only 6,732, but according to this, we need 15,000. It looks to
I
me,
don't see it in
and
front, but I believe there's an encumbrance there.
there are encumbrances
That
of
would-
17,229.
that would lapse.
I'm sorry?
They would have to lapse.
They would have to lapse first. So, again, I just want to run down the settlement claims. They say they're taking out 21,600, but we only have a balance of 17,449. And medical consulting, they say they're taking out 13,559, but there is 19,964. So there is not enough money in these three accounts available unless money lapses in encumbrances to address what is being put forth here on our sheet. So, Mary, have you talked with your financial people about this?
Yes, these were the numbers that we used based on what was in our budget at the time we made the request. So I will go back and look at it. If the numbers have changed significantly, I was not aware that they changed that much.
So, Roland, or I'd be happy to do it, but Roland will forward you this chart so that you have the information that we have.
Just for clarification, I did forward it to the Board of Education. So
Okay,
she has the
then-
chart.
Then perhaps you have it. So I think that you need to just make sure that there's some money in this accounts, and you
I will
need to
do
get
that.
that done and coordinate with Roland,
Okay,
please.
I will do that. Thank you.
And just to add, if you can answer the question before Monday, when the full BET doesn't vote on this, we only vote on this. So the question is whether we'll vote today. But I do want to clarify that this includes a sub-account of 53 here. The Board of Ed has sufficient funds, I believe, if we don't include the location code. If you're just looking at the 52130, for example, but that's not the number I know off my head. The 57350 settlements line is a total budget of 245,000. We only see 175,000 here because there is an additional 70,000 that's in a different location code. The Board of Ed would have the ability to move money between location codes also to cover its obligations.
So I would just ask that,
We'll clarify that.
please, Roland,
Thank you.
would you coordinate with Mary
Mhm.
and the Board of Education to make sure that,
We can get
This
you that
works.
tomorrow morning.
So let me ask the question. So Roland, you confirmed that the numbers that you provided to Ms. Tarkington were before the Board of Ed made their
Yes.
transfers.
Right, because they haven't been approved yet.
So does our board feel comfortable voting for the transfer, not knowing if there are sufficient funds available? Or is this something we should defer for a month? Mr. Mason?
I'm fine with it. I think Ms. Ford's got the idea that major object code, you
Right,
you
we'll get
could come up short if you spend everything was intended, and if you don't, then,
We
you
have
have
to
to
make
keep an eye on
transfer.
that.
well, I think that we'd like to get this straightened out in the next few days. I mean, I could support this, but I want confirmation from Roland and Mary that.
I can get you that tomorrow.
That
I
the
just-
accounts have been put in order and that there is sufficient funds to cover this transfer.
Will do.
And so just to repeat, this item, it gets approved by our board. It does not then go to the full BET. So our action is the final step for the Board of
Do you
Education.
feel comfortable?
I do,
approving?
I do. So,
Does Jeff?
I'm fine.
okay, so Jeff, will you make the motion to approve the transfer?
So moved.
I will second Jeff's motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And who would you like me to send that information to Roland?
To Roland, and Roland's going to forward it to us.
Okay, will do. Thank you very much.
You may just copy us, just so we
Okay.
And-
stay in
and
the
we-
loop until we make sure that it's all done.
And we'll provide that information to the rest of the BET so they're aware
Absolutely.
of what we're talking about. Okay, thank you for
Thank you.
coming, Mary. The next item on the agenda is GM1. It's GEM's release of conditions for the second half payment for fiscal 19 and 20. And Ms. Scheetinger is with us, and she has a new financial officer who you can introduce.
The first thing a financial officer needs to do is something about the chairs. Yeah.
You don't
You
need
better sit in the other one.
Thank you. That's a sympathy plea from the BET.
So this is Tom Miserandino. He is our new finance officer at GEMS.
Just spell
I'm
that
sorry,
last
could you just say the name again, please?
Miserandino, right?
name.
Okay.
That's right.
M-I-S-E-R-A-N.
E-N.
E-N.
D-I-N-O.
D-I-N-O. Thank you, Tom.
How often do you have to do that in a day?
Benny.
So you're here for the release of conditions on the second half of the year's funding. You provided your usual thorough report on the financial and the operating performance of GEMS. Are there any specific items you want to highlight to us?
You want to do financials
Sure,
first?
I'll just do a high-level financial review here. So GEMS, for the 6 months ended October 31st, performed very well, both ahead of, on the revenue side, ahead of budget, as well as on the expense side. So on the revenue side, we were 4% ahead of plan, that's 153,000 over, driven primarily by increases or over budgets in patient services, which is our basically our receivables from transporting patients, as well as the training side, well ahead on that. On the expense side, we were 6% below budget, which is a little over $200,000, which was driven exclusively on the comp and Benny side, so employee costs. And that was driven by a little restructuring within the organization. So certain roles were made to half-time, as well as other people replaced at a much lower rate during the year, so we are well ahead on that. And then on all the other expense lines, we are pretty much spot on budget. We're $931 under budget. So again, everything is really on the employee cost side, and we're doing well on that part. So.
It's good to have you here.
Thanks.
Is there anything else? I mean, you talked about headcount changes. Is there reductions or?
No, the headcount is level. It's just so my role now is a half-time role. So instead of a full-time, I'm half-time. Our IT director was replaced with someone at a rate of about 45% of what we were paying the prior IT director. So that garnered significant savings.
Thank you.
Sure.
Can I ask just a couple of questions?
Mr.
Just
Raymer.
but I can't keep things straight. Where is Medic One based normally?
Greenwich Hospital.
At Greenwich Hospital. And where is Medic Two based?
At our headquarters at 1111 East Putt.
And Medic Three?
That's Lower Cross.
That's the
The
trailer.
Art Barn.
Okay,
Nope,
sorry.
that's the Art Barn.
Oh, that's the Art Barn. Okay, right. And does Medic Four is the trailer?
Trailer
right?
on King Street, right.
King Street,
Up by the
okay.
grip. God bless
Gotcha.
you.
All right. Other response times, I'm noting that your response times from out of Art Barn are running so that you're more than 5, but you're less than 8 on 74%, but less than 5 on only 41%. It means about a third of your calls are between 5 and 8 minutes,
Correct.
and then you're over 8 minutes on about a quarter of your calls.
Coming out of Medic 3.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is all Medic 3.
Yes, yes.
I note that Medic 3 has a lot less calls and a lot longer response times. And that's just a question of the geography that it serves.
Correct. So Medic 3 being Lower Cross and Lake, a lot of their responses are, I don't want to call it mutual aid, but they are coming down into the Medic 1 or Medic 2 zone, so closer to North and Greyhampton, things like that. So clearly just trying to mitigate some of this issue with the Lake Avenue Bridge. So I'm not saying Medic 3, it's typically always the station that responds the slowest just due to sheer distance.
Right.
But the Lake Avenue Bridge definitely affected us.
Just to highlight it, since Mr. Raymer lives in Riverside, probably doesn't use the Lake Avenue Bridge too much. The bridge over the Merritt was shut down for 5 months, something
Yeah.
like that.
And it's back up now.
It is back up now.
Okay.
But that.
So a lot of what I'm seeing here is a reflection of that special circumstance.
It is, but I would not expect next quarter, the differences will still be the same. Station 3 always has the longest response times, just to geography. However, with the Lake Ave Bridge being back in place, we're hoping that the percentages come back into norm.
So why don't we have this conversation again when we're back in 6 months, when hopefully your data won't be affected by the bridge, and we can be talking about how it works
Yeah.
when the bridge is there.
Absolutely.
All right, let's do that. Yeah, thank you.
Or
Did you,
maybe in February.
just one second, did you have comments on operations before I open up to other questions?
I do. So some things just from our fiscal year to date, like to report, as you know, we did receive our 10-year contract. This July, we renegotiated our lease at 1111 for the headquarters. We searched high and low to try and find a different location that was suitable and cost-effective, but we were able to renegotiate our lease at what we feel is a decent rate with some leasehold improvements, which are being done as we speak. We did receive the Top Workplace Award according to Hearst Media for the second year in a row in September, so very proud of the staff for that. That is, thank you very much. So that is something that is voted on by the staff, and then they submit their answers anonymously, and the newspaper has a third-party vendor evaluate it, and we were chosen to be one of the top. So year to date, for the 6 months in, we're over 4,000 responses with about just over 2,400 transports to the hospital. Of those transports, we've transported 21 cardiac arrests with a return of circulation or ROSC in 38%. I thought it was 38%. I don't have the number of the percentage of patients who were able to walk out of the hospital, but all of these patients were admitted and at least given family the ample time to say goodbye or make final decisions. So it's 38% of the cardiac arrests. So the national average was 10.4. So that's where we stand there. I don't know if any of you have been down to Todd's Point, but we worked in conjunction. As you know, we raise all of our money for the capital purchases. That includes AEDs. We worked in conjunction with the Friends of Greenwich Point, and was 2 AEDs with external outdoor cases. So these are the first truly public access AEDs, not 24/7 because you can't go to the point 24/7. But they're outdoor, they're heated, they're monitored by us, they're cooled in the summer. So we're very excited about that. And with that, we're in our fall fundraising campaign, and things seem to be on track and doing very well. We did our Giving Tuesday fundraiser specifically for AEDs at the high school. We have 6 at the high school, but we don't have any outdoors. There's a lot of activities that go on all the fields, so we now raise just over $10,000 to put 3 AEDs outdoors at Greenwich High School. So we're very, very happy to report that. We'll be working with the Hill House Senior Center for the first time ever, delivering food and toys next week to the elderly. A lot of people, not toys, I shouldn't say toys, I deliver them for kids. Gifts for the elderly. So we're happy to be a part of that. And, I know it's very important. Cybersecurity, every employee, we're 100% compliant and trained. So that's sort of a quick overview of where we are year to date.
Mr. Mason?
GEMS is always relying on philanthropy with your ambulance and stuff. How are we doing?
For our
Fundraising
year to date,
for your.
I believe we are ahead of plan as of a couple of weeks ago. We were ahead of last year. So, hopefully we will hit, last year was an extremely great year, the best one ever, $650,000. We typically need about $500,000 to $600,000 to support our capital needs annually. And as it seems, we are on track. We will have our annual fundraiser that we started a couple years ago in February, GEMS-toberfest. It's a new theme, Oktoberfest in February. So if you'd like, come on out for some bratwurst and beer. That's BIER. You got that? So hopefully, we'll do really well there. We did add the kids triathlon this past summer for the first time ever. We netted about $15,000, and that was a lot of fun. I think it's just a great activity to be part of the town, and it was a lot of work, but to be able to sponsor something like that. So we're being hopeful.
I wanted to just follow up on two other positive things in the financials. To note that your cash position and fund balance has increased, which gives you more of a cushion, clearly. And the other item is your account receivables, which has changed since the health insurance has changed for people.
Yes.
We're seeing the same trends, but you're keeping it about where it has been, I believe, in your outstanding account receivables. Is that fair?
That is correct.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
No, thank
Can
you.
I have a motion to
so-
recommend
so
release?
moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
That's routine on it.
Yeah, I'll take care of that. The next item on the agenda is HD4 from the Health Department. It's a request of a transfer of $25,000 from the Shellfish Commission's restricted account. And with us is Michael Long and Roger, sorry, forgive me. Do you want to just quickly go through the need?
Yeah, basically, the Shellfish Commission's boat has an outboard engine which gave up. So we need to replace it with a similar outboard, and the cost will be less than $25,000, but we did go out for bid, and the bid came back, the last couple of weeks, $20,550. So, however, I'm not sure how the modification goes, but that's what we've got.
Okay. Mr. Geiger, I meant to look this up from the budget book, but remind us how much is in the reserve account for the Shellfish Commission? Rule of thumb, it's several hundred thousand,
Yeah, it is,
300 something, if I remember correctly. So the source of funds is not an issue, it's available. Are there questions people have? Mr. Mason? Yes? No? Oh, I saw a finger go up. Right?
The, do you have a contract for the purchase of this engine? Do you have a bid in hand on this engine?
Yes, we just got it through purchasing. Yep,
And the amount of that bid?
$20,550.
$20,550. The old engine, when was that purchased, and was it purchased new?
It was purchased with the boat
In
2008.
2008.
Correct.
Okay. And the horsepower of this engine?
250. 250.
And the old engine was a 250 as well?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any further questions? Process-wise, after the BET acts on this, if we approve it, it goes to the RTM to authorize the expenditure. And as you point out in your documentation, any unused funds would then return to the reserve account. Can I have a motion?
So move, I move that we transfer the funds from the Shellfish Commission for the $25,000 appropriation
Seconded.
as routine.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Are you sure we don't have a resolution on that?
I didn't look for that resolution. But
Time out, we're
The-
finding out.
what
if
is,
you- if
so
you
what is
have
the
to go to
resolution?
I don't know if we adjusted, the old resolution allowed the BET to simply create new appropriations, but then there's an agreement with the RTM that the annual budget would go to the RTM, and they wanted to treat it like any other department, so going to the RTM would be like any other department.
That would be consistent, really. If they're approving the budgets annually, the budget doesn't include the $25,000 expenditure, it needs approval.
Yeah, I mean, we've approved the item here. The only difference is whether it needs to go to the RTM.
Correct.
And Rowan, do you think the answer is yes, it needs to go to the RTM?
I think so, yeah, that, because the whole budget, I mean, if they just wanted to come in as an interim, put a $1 budget into the process, to go to the RTM and come in for $50,000 after the fact, it would kind of be circumventing the intent.
Is the boat in the water now?
No, it's not.
No, it's,
No, so the boat's out of the water for the winter?
no,
Well,
we-
it's-
because of the engine problem.
Oh, I'm sorry, of course.
Problem is, we
Uh,
need it all the way through the winter.
I see. So it would
That's
make
kind of what we
it
do.
could make a difference to your operations whether or not you had the delay to go to the RTM.
How's the, what's the deadline for filing for the January RTM? We haven't passed it, have we? Because then that would be, February meeting, that would leave you to March. So,
Right, now, I think Caroline mentioned that she did something for the next step,
so
Jan-
she may have
for a
filed
January meeting?
something. Yeah, she may have already had to file for that. Can be withdrawn if necessary. Mr.
I was
Deuce.
going to ask if there's any latitude. It would be very helpful if the BEP could put this on Monday. Waiting 3 months to get this new engine, it's a big disservice to the public.
Typically, what departments do when they have to go to both the BET and the RTM is they'll file with the RTM even before the BET acts, because they can always withdraw it from the call if something occurs from the BET. So our vote on Monday isn't the headache. It's the deadline for the RTM that doesn't, usually is not movable.
There's no doubt, in terms of our interpretation, it needs to go through the RTM.
I think we can, it sounds like our initial thinking about this is that it does have to go to the RTM. However, we do have a few days to think about that, and at full BET, maybe change.
The deadline is the 27th of December to go to the January RTM.
Okay, they must have a
So
late
we have-
meeting, because we understand your need to get, you would have the boat in the water now if you had a working vehicle.
Right.
Okay,
And the balance available is $367,000.
367.
okay, so we're going to do two things. One is we will confirm amongst all the BET members that we have the same interpretation of that resolution.
If I may.
Yes, Mr. Mason?
Under budget resolutions, number 23, the Shellfish Commission is authorized to collect proceeds from licenses, fees for the taking of shellfish under its control, and such proceeds shall become appropriation upon approval of Board of Estimate and Taxation, used by the Commission for the protection and propagation of shellfish under its control pursuant to Connecticut General Statute.
So it's just BET.
No, I think, in my initial thinking too, is Roland pointed out that we've changed the process where the BET actually approves a Shellfish Commission budget. It's part of the budget book. They took a vote on it, and the vote lays out a specific expenditure level. So if the 25,000 falls within the expenditure level, you'd be fine, but it doesn't. Your total budget was just slightly more than that, right? So it wouldn't be covered by expenditures. We have a few days to think about it. The BET has to act on Monday regardless of whether it goes to the RTM or not. You have time to file with the RTM if necessary to go there.
Get a placeholder.
And we'll work through this issue over the next couple of days.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for
And
coming.
you said Caroline may have already done that anyway.
Yeah, she mentioned the January meeting, so
Okay. So
maybe in the queue.
So we'll
Thank you.
communicate with Caroline about this. All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you for coming. And the last budget adjustment item on the agenda is TA2, TAG, release of conditions of $73,750. And this is the second half,
No, it's the last quarter. isn't it?
last quarter
Yeah.
of the payment. Well,
It read oddly before this, 25% of the balance thing wasn't quite correct. It was said that way the last time, it wasn't quite correct then either. But this is 1 quarter of the original annual appropriation.
Correct. We had originally been approved for 50% in July and 50% in January, and we came before the BET Budget Committee and requested an acceleration of half of the January to the beginning of October. We actually received it late September.
just to introduce this item, I did compare the information that you provided us to what you said in September, and you are running pretty close to what you said. Your revenues forecast are higher. You have several accounts that you're expecting to do more transportation for, like the YWCA, and you're still planning on ending the year about break even, though in the positive category.
At this point, yes.
At this point.
The additional new business, we expect to slightly outpace the direct expenses related to that new business.
I'll entertain a question, Mr. Raymer.
Are you current now on your accounts payable?
Yes. Typically, we run an accounts payable balance for the current accounts
30
payable.
days.
all of the delinquent accounts payables that we rolled over in this year, many of those have been brought current. The only thing that put us in a little bit of a bind, which recently worked itself out, we typically receive funds from the state for the Dial-A-Ride program. The state provides an annual award of $73,000 based on our over 60 population, as well as based on the geography of Greenwich relative to the overall state. And we receive those monies 3 times throughout the year, typically August, December, and then March, April. For one reason or another, processing the first payment at the state level was much more complex than it had been in previous years. We're not exactly sure why, but we were on top of that, and we just kept back and forth until such time as finally the funds were released just a few weeks ago. We're expecting the December payment, which is the second of the 3, to be made on time. We submitted, and Mr. Minarski signed off on that request close to a month ago. So our expectation is that we would have those funds in December. To the extent that they don't come in December and ultimately come in January, we may have to hold off some of our payables to offset that $24,000. But at this point in time, we're expecting, and we would be able to manage through if the state does not come through in December and ultimately pays us in.
But so for example, on your basic core expenses, like your rent, you're current on your rent?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Any other questions? No? Ms. Tarkington?
So so this is coming back at least a month early for the second, what's remaining for the second half, right? It was going to be.
No, our request is to release the funds on the schedule that was originally made at the beginning of January.
Yeah,
So
just
we're
like-
we're not
just
asking
like
for an
Jim's.
acceleration.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
So this is, but there's only 1 quarter because we've already released 3 quarters.
Correct.
Half of this was accelerated to October, and it actually was distributed in late September.
Mr. Mason, did you have a question?
I found fundraising expenses, but I was just looking at fundraising this year versus previous year.
Mhm.
How are we,
So typically, our net fundraising, which is fundraising net of expenses, has tracked anywhere from a little under 100,000 to a little over 100,000, but for a few years where we had some extraordinary breakout years. Our expectation for this year is higher than the previous year because the previous year we only had 1 major fundraising event. This year we have 2. We have our second annual casino night, which several members of BET, thankfully, attended as well. And for our first year,
So we get fleeced twice.
we would love to have everyone at our event. We have a new event this year, which is being partially underwritten, or the lead underwriter is the Greenwich Board of Realtors, and that is our RPM night. And the RPM night is, there will be racing teams representing each of the realtors who is going to participate, and they are receiving sponsors, and the sponsorships will ultimately help bring a substantial and
You won't
needed
be
amount
racing
of
in
funds.
tag vehicles, I know.
These are go-karts.
Okay, go-karts.
So, maybe it'll be on YouTube for everybody to follow. So this year we are having 2 major fundraisers, and that's the reason for the increase. I'm sorry?
dates?
The dates.
Dates.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for asking that. At this point, it is late January, and I should have the exact date, and you're very good.
Good advertising.
It is the 3rd Thursday in January, I believe, but I should have that date.
Somebody look that up, and we can
I'll look it
confirm.
up so we can say it. 'cause I-
If you go to the TAG website,
It's there.
That's right.
ridetag.org, all of the information that I don't have at the top of my head is readily available.
The
So
third-
thank you for asking.
The third Thursday in January would be the 16th.
If you go to ridetag.org, it will show you the exact date, which I
Okay.
should have memorized, but unfortunately I don't.
So the Realtor Grand Prix party is Wednesday, January 22nd. And I don't know if your casino night's on here, is it?
The casino night will be late March, as it was last year. It was last Friday in March. I'm not sure at this point.
March
what-
30th, sorry.
That was
I had to go to
last
another
year.
tab.
Our
Oh,
expectation.
2019, you're right. The
Yeah,
page
our
hasn't been
expectation
updated.
is to have it consistent with the prior year, but based on the calendar of the town, we want to make sure we're not going up against too many that might funnel some potential donors
Oh,
away.
actually, it was posted March 28th,
There you go.
2020.
Okay, it is up there.
That's the casino night.
That's the casino night. And is it also showing the January date for the RPM event?
Yes.
Yes,
What date is that?
that is.
Wednesday, January 22nd, from 5:30 to 9 p.m.
Thank you so
Race
much.
starts promptly at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you so much. It should be a wonderful event, and we're really looking forward to all of the participants from the real estate community and everybody who's supporting the real estate community and TAG.
Where is this held?
The RPM is located just over the border in Stamford. As you go on Selleck, that first right where I think it's West Avenue, you make a right
It's
and
West,
go
600
south.
West Avenue.
Get
And
off
then-
exit 6 on 95, make a right, just keep going.
Thank you so much.
We'll find it.
All right, thank you. And just to reiterate, we know that you've had to work very hard to get to this steady state, and you're closer there, though I'm sure that there are some periods of the year where you're so dependent on that revenue coming in, but appreciate all your efforts and appreciate what TAG provides to the community.
Thank you so much. We could not have done this without the support of the BET. It was a very long and trying process, and through every stage of the process, many areas of the town have supported us. The community has been really strong, but the BET was incredibly strong throughout this and made it possible. We expect this to continue to be a multi-year process where we're digging out of the hole that was created, which we're still going to see a negative equity for years to come. But as we continue to generate cash flow, we're going to chip away at that negative equity, and hopefully several years down the road, we'll turn positive again.
Terrific, thank you. Can I have
And what about the teen writing group?
safe ride?
Very good. We have been going through a period within the community where, Safe Rise, I assume you're referencing, where we're taking a look at dwindling ridership of Safe Rides. And we're looking at that to try and understand what the cause of it is, and we have come up with what our understanding, what people have told us. It's just too simple to get an Uber or a Lyft, even though Uber and Lyft drivers should not be picking up kids from the community without their parents' support. There's no way of effectively policing that, and it's fairly simple. And as long as the community doesn't have a problem with that, we are going to lose a substantial number of our potential Safe Rides clients. So we are going to come back as part of the budget process after we've completed our review and make a determination as to how to proceed or not with Safe Rides in the following year.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to recommend release of conditions on the TAG
So moved.
contribution?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Routine, yeah.
No, well, we don't have the ability to actually release them, so it has to go to the.
It has to, right.
So, passes 4-0. It will go out, it'll be
Thank you all very
discussed
much.
Monday. Thank you.
So does that mean I'm marking that non-routine on the agenda?
Yes, you have to.
Okay.
The,
So-
it could be routine. Okay. We'll have to
I
check
don't
those
know
rules.
about that, since we don't have the ability.
We'll let the chair make that determination for
Lucky me.
the BET. The next
I hope he
item,
doesn't go beyond his authority.
I'm
Never.
sure that you will identify it if he has. The next item on our business is a follow-up, is under old business. It's the project closeout form. This proposal was made last month to add a requirement for departments when they're requesting the finance department to close out the project in Munis. The purpose of the form is to add both accountability to the departments and provide information to the BET of planning information for the future. And the form's intent was to compare the scope of the project that was completed versus what was said in the CIP project, as well as the total cost and any reimbursements that were expected. Excuse me. Roland took the concept page that was discussed last month and put it into a form that would be proposed. What you have in your package are really two versions, or it's the same form, but it shows the first attachment shows a project that was completed as planned. So what you see is a project name, departments, account codes, and the completion date at the top. In the project description section, we would expect that to be a restatement or just copying what was in the original CIP sheet from the year in which we approved the project. The budget versus actual dollars by category would represent the figures that are typically on the second page of a CIP sheet. So it breaks out the total dollar of the $200,000 into its components, and then asks two follow-up questions. Was it completed, the full scope completed? And if not, what remains to be done and what funding would that require? And secondly, the second question was, what is any reimbursement anticipated and how much has been received? We didn't change that typo, and or still expected. The second page shows you how a form might be completed if the two questions were not answered, yes and yes. But I think my recommendation is that we go forward and work with this form, introduce it, and to modify it potentially as it goes forward. But it's a good first step, and it will provide information that we can use as we do our capital plans. Any discussion? Mr. Mason?
Obviously, it's a great step forward. I have a thought. Do we want to use this form as we enter the budget process to send to the departments and say, it's called a closeout form, but we could modify that to say, okay, here's your projects that are open, update these. Because that's what we do usually when we start the budget anyway. We go to the department heads and say, okay, here's what you had, where are you? Before we start adding on new or going into the next phase of a project. So it's just a thought, but I definitely think we definitely ought to try this, because there's probably open projects there. The department would be more than happy to say, oh, I want to close that out. And it can close out also if there's a delay in a project where it's just not going to get done, where they're going to lapse it. Can we use this form to lapse stuff?
The one thought I had, it's a lot of paperwork, right? So we have to, I think a little bit about the burden on the departments. I'm not sure. Certainly we'd get good information. We ask for that information verbally now, and it certainly would be easier to get for us in writing, and we would make sure every project is covered, because at times when we get into a discussion, we don't get an update on every project. But how many projects are open right now? Few hundred. So it's
A few hundred.
A few hundred. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't sure.
But they may not be all substantial dollars. Some of them may be very small dollars.
May I ask?
but
question?
each form still takes the same effort, right? Ms. Tarkington?
So, Roland?
Yes.
Roland, can you just help me a little bit? So did you just sort of do the second one?
I just made it up.
Okay, you just made it up.
It's not real.
But Roland, it looks like a lot of work, and obviously this is what we expect of the departments, not you. You're just giving us an example of how to do this, correct? The departments will be doing this. So I think this is very good, and I applaud this effort, but I worry about doing it for hundreds of projects. So question, I mean, you've done this in closeouts. What if we started by narrowing the group to every closeout where there's some reimbursement, whether it's from grants for bridges or something, so that, especially on those items.
Well, can I, before
Of
you
course.
answer that question? There are two different ideas that the committee's talked about so far. One is project closeout, which typically happens towards the end of the year when Roland's closing the books. Actually, when they have to come back to the BET to keep projects open, people take a look at those.
And the fiscal year,
And so I would say it's an appropriate accounting step and procedure step to ask a department when they're finished with the project to tell us what happened. So I would recommend, and I support asking for this on every capital appropriation. Now, Mr. Mason's concept of using this as the format for our budget discussions on open capital, new idea, I think has different,
Save time.
could save time for us, it could cause time for the departments, we'd have to think of pros and cons. I think that's still open. So I guess as you asked your question to Mr. Geiger, you were thinking on the closeout process, limiting it some, and I think I would promote or support saying it's appropriate for every capital project. They ask for the money at the beginning, and we should find out what happened when the project's been completed.
So when the project has been completed, Roland, can I just ask Roland?
Yes.
You know, if you are in the department, not where you are, who's such an expert, how much time do you think it would take to complete something like this?
I guess if it's finished, it probably wouldn't take too much time, but, you know, the departments, they have money, don't like to give it back.
Right.
And you're going to hear a story about why we have to hold it open, why it's not completely finished. And that's, you know, there's retainage we have to keep. We're waiting for the state to come back in and look at this, and we might have to put a new rail here versus there. For the bridges, for example, they take a long time before they're finished. So you're going to hear a lot of stories like that, but some of them are just open because they don't want to give the money back. Just
So,
kinda
can I just?
human nature here.
You still haven't answered my question. I mean, in terms of how long do you think it would take, either how long did it take you, or how long do you think it would take a department to complete something like
Well, I
this?
think some of the ones that, this might start to get a little complicated. This simple one here,
Right,
because this is kind of a program,
right.
you know? Public
So-
Works starts doing these, moving offices around, and it's an ongoing, when is it ever finished? You know, we just keep moving from one area to another area.
So, Leslie,
But-
my reaction here is that this is something positive, and, you know, I thank you, and, you know, I'm supportive of it. But, you know, it's hard to get from Roland the exact time it's going to take. But one of the things that worries me a little bit about it is people will look at this form and say, oh, I don't want to fill that out, and then they might not end up closing out the project because they don't want to do this last bit of paperwork.
Maybe it's
I
it's
want
another-
something that motivates them to get it done. I don't know how much time it's going to take, but I'm particularly interested, and I would like to prioritize, especially if we're starting a program, the ones where there are some reimbursement, because I kind of get a feeling that maybe things get a little lost in the, over a period of time, and I want to make sure where we've been committed to get certain reimbursements, that we're really getting what we said, and if we're not, then we should think about that as we approve new projects. But I don't want departments to stop closing out projects because they don't want to fill out the form because it's going to take them time, or they're missing a section and therefore they don't feel that they can close out the project, or they don't have the information, or they don't want to. I want to get the information. I think that's very constructive. But I also want to motivate them to get their money back to us, or to, close out the appropriation so that we can use that for something else.
I think getting focus on this, but what you might hear is, or they don't want to say is, yeah, I did the offices, but we ran out of money, and we never did the carpet, sorry. You know, that's going to be difficult for them to
Put that in
put that
writing.
put that in writing.
But that's exactly what we want.
That's what we want to know. So the question is, how do you get that information without them slapping their hand? There has to be a process where we're trying to, we understand things occur
Well,
in
you
projects
can-
and scopes.
Slapping hands. You can do the slapping hands once, and then you won't have the communication anymore. The idea is to find out, you know, timeline of projects, what's getting done, why something's not getting done, why there's a balance, what's, you know, the bridges, I know what they're going to deal with the bridges. But I think we have to start this, and I think it's relationship with the department. You want the departments to tell us, you know, look at last night, right? Look at the conversation that came up about the two items last night. One is the police mechanicals, and the other was the Board of Ed. I mean, a dialogue ensued at the RTM level about interim appropriations, not the scope of the project, about interim appropriations. And I know I went and I spoke at one of the committees, I can't remember which one, and I said, if you don't want interim appropriations unless it's an emergency, that's okay, but let us know so we can tell the department heads. But right now, the department heads are saying, oh, if I put it for an interim, I got to go through, forget it, I'll put it in the next budget. That's not an efficient way to get everything completed and done. So it's a two-way, you know, it's a two-way street. I think we try it.
Mr. Raymer, any comment?
No, the only thing that occurred to me, so that you end up knowing what wasn't done, because 2 years later they come back with another request for capital to do something which you thought you paid for 2 years before.
But that's only if you remember.
Yeah,
that that project was
and half the
there.
time you remember and half the time you don't.
Right.
At budget time, we get from Roland a printout, 6 pages long or thereabouts, of the open capital items and how much is committed and how much is actually spent, and then what the balance is.
Quarterly is better.
Well, I mean, that's a question of the effort that you're going to put Roland through. That's a little different than asking for a sheet like this twice a year, or more or less twice a year, at budget time, and then again closeout time, 4 months later or whatever. I'd be more inclined to, I like the idea of the sheet for the end of the fiscal year. I was a little less certain about it at budget time.
Well, budget starts with how much did you get done, so we can know how much more you can
So
do.
as you go through the capital items that are on that printout that Roland gives us, and as you talk to each department, you're plucking, and we routinely, or the first thing we usually are asking them is, maybe not every single item on the list, but certainly the ones that are more thought-provoking or the ones that are larger dollar figures. And we ask about that, and you get verbally the information that you would have gotten in writing, but you didn't ask the department to spend the time to fill out paperwork on projects which frankly you weren't even going to ask about at budget time.
But I don't want them to wait until the end of the fiscal year to close out if we can get them to close out earlier, because that impacts our budgeting process, our thought process. It could also impact when P, raises
That's what you're doing.
debt. I like the idea of, what?
I just, I question the concept that just because we're asking for a form like this, that waiting for the end of the year is often when they look at it, but they can be trained and they can do it at any point in time when they're finished a project.
Well, that's what I would encourage.
So,
That's what I encourage.
But I don't think putting in the form changes that timing. They either do that now or they don't do that now.
Well, I don't know.
I think-
I
don't
just
know.
don't, if it looks like the form isn't due to the end of the year, they might wait a little bit more.
There's no,
Again,
no, the timeline on this, there's no deadline on this. It's when the project's completed. It's just Roland won't close it out. They, typically what happens now, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a department will give you a notification, we're finished with this project, close it out in Munis, and you get an email. And so, and that happens throughout the year, or is?
Throughout the year.
It's throughout the year. So the new process as envisioned would be when you make that request, fill out this form to make that request. And so that he's got it there and we can come up with a process for when it gets shared with the BET.
again, I think it's a good idea, and, I just don't know, how many projects do we get closed out in a year these days, Roland? I mean, the form that Jeff is talking about is actually 14 pages now. And so about how many projects now, you're talking about hundreds of projects, but about how many projects now are we closing out a year? Do you have any concept?
I'd say at least 100 because and I say that because the open project list tends to be in that same range of 11 to 12. So, and we add 100+ projects a year, so over 100 projects.
Over
close out
100
the-
projects.
Ms. Tarkington, sorry, Beth, you had a question.
No, I'm just wondering if there's any kind of a carrot out there for businesses, that there's something that would incentivize them to actually close out if there was no payment from the state or whatever. Outstanding.
You're right. Currently, the only incentive is that they have to talk to us in February and explain every project. I believe Mr. Geiger also follows up with the department, so that's the other issue. You ask them about every project and what can be closed out. Good point. There's another way, I'd like to move this forward somehow. I'm wondering whether we roll this out and ask for it for projects over 100,000, or come up with a material dollar amount,
I would just roll it
or
out.
just
Roll it out. If you start conditioning it, see what happens, roll it out.
and we can both, process-wise, we'll
I'm
bring
telling
it
you,
BET.
how do I say this? We were in a meeting and we were talking about the contract language. I can't remember, we were at that meeting. And there's reasons for delays. This is going to open up the door for conversations about why things took long. Did we have enough? Did we not want to do an interim? I just say roll it out, see what happens.
Ms. Karen?
I was for that too. I guess I'm missing something because I just would see this as a routine. You want to close out a project, you fill out this little form. It doesn't look like it's, overly burdensome because you're just cutting and pasting basically and then adding a few little lines. And you forward it out to roll and then off you go to the races. I guess I'm missing something of the complexity of this. I think it, basically it'll be a mindset change, but I don't see a carrot or a stick either. I just see it as a routine way of closing out a project.
Right.
If you're going to have, if a department like Public Works, in a given year, which would be a department that has a lot of projects. And so if somebody is being detailed to prepare the form like that for 240 projects, and that's a new piece of work, 240 projects, it'll be important that she gets the figures right. It may not be complicated, but she doesn't want to make any mistakes. I mean, that's a new, substantial piece of work. And so I think that we should give it a thought. I'm not sure that I wouldn't do the form, particularly at year end. I'm having a little more trouble asking departments to do it twice. Once for the budgeting process upcoming and once for the year end on the ones they're closing out.
And I guess my challenge to you would be is you have 240 in one day being closed out. These are occurring over time, and, you should know how much you have left in your budget. And again, that's either looking it up or
Amina. Amina.
I guess maybe you don't know enough about the process, how long they close out. But I would think that somebody's closing out 240 in one day.
No, well, except I think at the year end, that we're looking at projects that they're lapsing some projects. They have some projects that are open. They're trying to make a judgment about which ones will they let it be lapsed, which ones will they ask for it to be continued. And so there's an inquiry of, Charlie, what work is remaining on that project? We've got $25,000 unspent on it, and it doesn't look like the funds are committed. Where are we on that project? That conversation has to take place.
But they're going to have to give that information anyway, so why not consolidate it into one area?
All right.
I think the form's a good idea, and I'd be inclined to be doing it for the year end. The question is whether or not we want them to, I think the question is whether or not we want to do it twice.
I just want to modify, it's not for year end, it's for when they want to close out a project. Could happen at any time, and it's
But
for
they
some
tend to look at
subset.
it at year end.
They may, but that's their choice, and after the first year, maybe they'll figure out, maybe that's not such a good plan.
Do it all at the end.
I think the decision about what we were asking for during the budget cycle is one that is a separate question. And so let's first deal with this for project closeouts. I'd like to get a recommendation from this committee to go to the full BET to institute a new form for a new process for project
Is there
closeouts.
still another question?
Sure.
So will we then have, say, on budget committee, another section, like 1, request for budget adjustments, 2, project closeouts or something like that, so that we're looking at these and reading them so that they feel that they go someplace, like every month, since it's going to be on a rolling basis?
I think there are two ways to handle it. One is you can add it to agenda, to talk about it in an agenda, but that may increase the stakes again and change the way people use it. Otherwise, we could just ask for monthly distributions of what Mr. Geiger receives. And it doesn't have to be the subject at a public meeting unless the chair or members decide that it needs to be discussed. But it's really information that helps us for developing the capital plan and the budget. I don't think it's actively a topic that usually we would have to address.
So I guess I like your idea. I mean, Roland, you could, let's just say we roll out 100 projects
I'll
a
make
year.
the
to
motion.
close out. Can you give us any estimate of that? Like, what percentage of those projects would be over 100,000? Would that be, say, 60% or 70%? Is there any way you can just give us an estimate? Because we might just start, as an
Yeah,
experiment.
I think I'd like to just institute it and then pull back from it. I don't think this is as big a deal as we're making it. But I think we also have, there are a few days where we can get additional information if the full BET doesn't agree with the recommendation. We can think about it. But at this point, I think if they're coming to us for an appropriation, it's reasonable to ask that they come to us with a closeout document.
So I was just
So-
thinking, that if we were being asked, Leslie Moriarty and Leslie Tarkington, to fill out this form and let's close out NISA, just exactly how much work it would be. Now,
Yeah, but you don't have to do that until 2034.
the good news is we have money left, Mike. We hear about New Levin, but we have money left. So,
See, I would fill this out. I could tell you how I'd fill it out now. I don't think this is a tremendous amount of work. And what I don't know, I have to say, is the detail that we have for the budget roll-in, where we break it out into offices, recarpeting, and corridors. Is Munis tracking the expenditures on that same basis?
No.
Munis is not.
We
So,
could, but we don't.
so each project would have to be, they would have to change their coding to create subcodes. So going back, for any project we've already approved, they don't have it. And I wouldn't ask a department to go back and spend that time. So it could be that we just want to see the total, that in the actual column, we don't get the detail by offices, recarpeting, and corridors. We would just get the 194,000. I still think that answers the question. The qualitative information about what was completed in terms of the scope and not scope still gives us what we need, and it doesn't create that burden. So I think that would be a change that I would make to this recommendation. We can ask for the detail in the budget if it's helpful, but not in the actual dollars.
So the only other thing then I would suggest that we have a column for or check the box for is whether the project has a C of O. I'm finding too many buildings awaiting years to get their C of O. And I do think that that's a critical piece of information. So I would support this. To do it, just as you've talked about, but I just wonder if, Roland, someplace in this form, you could just
Yeah, in that
require
first box, you can add the question, has a project received its certificate of
Well, you just say
occupancy?
date of C of O or something like that. Receipt of a COO required, date of C of O. And then that way you've got it, they put it on, and you don't have to go searching. That would be my only suggestion
So
to
I
this
would
form.
move we adopt the process and the form.
And would you,
For
inclusive
capital
of my
program.
comment on the form by having the
Oh,
C
I have
of
no
O?
objection to that, for sure.
Okay, then-
Actually, if you don't have objection, you added a date, which I see then as being an extra piece of information which the clerk somewhere has to go pull a file and look up, and it adds to the work. Whereas from a pure recollection, the person handling the project can say, yes, I got the CO. I wonder if you'd be satisfied to get the check the box on the CO without the date.
No, I think I'd like to have a date on the C of O, given how many, some circumstances I've heard recently of where CFOs were not there. So I guess I would like to,
And-
Sure, just to move the thing along, I'll adopt that suggestion.
so
And,
then
and
I'll second it then.
the other change, just for full clarification, and I'll work with Roland on instituting this, but under the actual column in the project description, to add a parenthetical comment saying, provide breakdown if available. So we'll get the bottom line, but the breakdown is only if it's coded that way. We're not going to ask them to go back and add up all their carpeting invoices.
My motion needs a second.
I'll second it.
No, I seconded it. already.
Okay.
good. Thank
All
you.
right. So, and this is to move forward to the full BET for discussion on Monday.
Yes,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye, 4-0. Okay, thank you. And then the next item, it's just Budget Committee Chair comments. Since this is my last meeting as chair of this committee, I just wanted to make sure I took the time to thank both Pete and Roland for your support the past 2 years. It's always, I learn something every time we have a conversation, but thank you for helping the work of this committee and me in my role. With that, can I have a motion to approve the
I-
minutes of November 12th?
I'd just like to add to that, to thank the chairman for all the work that she has done in this 2-year term, and
Yes.
she has really done a tremendous amount, and I thank her for that. Or, however we want to say it.
I would like to add that this is, it's been great serving on the committee. I think even with some of the other trials and tribulations, this committee has throughout delivered budgets, guidelines, interims, and I think that bodes well for all of us, but it was your leadership, and I thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that. The next item on the agenda is a motion to approve the minutes of November 12th.
So
No
moved.
way.
So moved.
Any comments? All right, all those in favor, 4-0, and a motion to adjourn at
So moved.
6:07. Okay, thank you, we're adjourned.